So this video is demonstrating cross-legged seated variations. So we're going to have my very flexible model here, Mike Horn, take care of this. So the first position that Mike's in is just a base position of cross-legged. All right, so this would be the easiest one to get into. Not a ton of mobility demands to it. And you know, the closer the knees are to the ground, the easier it is for Mike's spine to be upright there. So every ground sitting position we do, we're going to have different arm variations to give support, but also just change the challenge to our shoulders as well as our hips. So I'm going to have Mike to turn and face the profile of the camera. So first thing you're going to show is the shoulder extension. So the hands go behind and just kind of get them planted. So now when the hands are behind, you're in more shoulder extension, the shoulder blades can retract a little bit more. And then the last thing you can do, your hips are more in extension, then you can pop the hips up a little bit using the glutes as well as the core. Now as you come back down, the next thing you do is you just walk your hands in little by little, as close to your side as you can without losing that palm contact. And now the thought process is pushing straight down into the ground. It's going to be more of shoulder blade depression or scapular depression, which would look like shoulders just moving more away from the ears. After that, we're going to compress. So now you're going to bring your arms forward, reach towards me. Think about your abs tightening. So initially this will be more of a flexed posture, but you're still thinking about bringing your ribs down towards your ankles a little bit more. And then as you raise your arms up, you might lengthen and bring yourself even more forward. So you have a kind of a continuum there of hip flexion and shoulder flexion overhead, and then when your hands are back, it's more of a shoulder extension. All right, so you can rest down through there. All right, so another variation in cross-legged would be the half lotus. So face the camera, show the half lotus base position. Would just be kind of cross one ankle or one leg over the other thigh. All right, so this is definitely going to have more of a mobility demand on the both hips really into external rotation. So you can start there, be able to breathe there. You can do some directional isometrics there. So then we go hands back into shoulder extension. All right, so hands would be behind the body as much as you can. Chest comes up. All right, still able to keep a sense of reaching through the limbs so that there's still core and pelvic pelvic floor activity. And then you start walking your hands in a little bit more. And that would be looking at the scapular depression component that we can look at. You can still try to create a lift. So there's always a thought that you're trying to create a lift by reaching through the ground and engaging the hips. And then now we're going to try to compress towards your thighs, reach the arms forward as you do that. All right, and then maybe bring a little bit more compression that way. So add a little bit more hip flexion. All right, now as you're going forward here, now just try to extend your arms more overhead and you lengthen that body position out. So arms still raising up overhead in line with the ears. All right, so now you're taking that compression that you had, which was a little bit more flexed, and just lengthening it out. All right, and then relax there. All right, and then the last cross-sitting variation, which would be only Mike can do here, is the Lotus Pose. So that's the full, the full expression of cross-legged here, where you get both ankles on the groins. And the value of this position, especially in the base position here, is that Mike doesn't have to do a lot of work here in order to have his knees touching the ground, and that makes it very easy for him to keep an upright spine with very little effort. Do you feel like you're doing a lot of effort to keep an upright spine? And that's why this position is so tied into meditation, because if you can get this type of mobility, you can sit here without cushions or anything for a longer period of time in a nice line of gravity while you sit and meditate. So this would be the full expression of cross-legged. And then you can do all the things with the shoulders so the hands can go back behind. All right, and then you're getting the shoulder extenders involved, scaps to retract, and then add a little hip extension. So you just squeeze your butt and lift up a little bit, bring it back down, walk your hands forward. All right, and then you reach through the ground, shoulders going away. You're probably not going to get much lift there, but you could think if you had enough oomph into the ground through the arms, the butt would just raise up. And then try to compress forward, so reach the arms forward, hips flex forward a little bit more as your trunk flexes forward. And then just lengthen that out. Arms go overhead a little bit more. And now you lengthen up and just creating more hip flexion, keeping the sit bones down. All right, and then relax through there. So that would be the continuum of all the cross-legged positions, moving from shoulder extension and hip extension all the way to shoulder flexion and hip flexion. Thanks, Mike.